Welcome to Anatomy of a Strategy. I'm Stefani Forster.
And I'm Tara Hunt. We hope everyone is staying safe and healthy.
And if you're new here, Anatomy of a Strategy explores the hidden psychology and behaviors that drive marketing strategies.
We're also recording this from our respective shelter-in-place home studios. Steph, where are you recording from?
Yeah, so I'm at a studio in downtown Toronto right now. I needed a small, quiet space since my apartment is very echoey, and thankfully this one was available to use.
That's cool. It looks really neat. So we have a bit of a fun setup here. We can see one another here on Zoom, but we're also using our Zoom recorders, which is not related to the online virtual meeting platform. It's very confusing.
Very confusing.
So we're going to attempt to sound good and keep this lively. We'll see how we go.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Excellent. So today we're tackling retail and asking some very serious questions in the current climate about the future of retailers, all with the help of Joe Jackman, speaker, author, and the founder and CEO of Jackman Reinvents, behind the reinvention of brands such as Staples Canada, Dave & Buster's, Hertz, and Phlywheel. We initially spoke to him about his latest book, The Reinventionist Mindset, Learning to Love and Master Change and the Human of How, Doing It Brilliantly in our offices.
That's right. So quick disclaimer, we actually spoke to Joe back in January. So this was before coronavirus became a huge global crisis. And obviously since then, COVID-19 has brought the economy to a standstill and a lot of things have changed. And lots of industries, but retail in particular, have taken a huge hit.
Yeah, absolutely. And so far, international companies have had to contend with shutting down stores, accommodating sick and worried employees, and dealing with supply chain disruptions. So things have changed a lot since then, and are still changing every day.
Yeah, but I think that now, during the COVID-19 crisis, almost more than ever, what he has to say about reinventing retail is actually extremely relevant. And not just to retailers. I also think that it'll be even more important in the upcoming months and even years when we get back to normal or the new normal or whatever that may be.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's really hard, whatever that is. But as Joe explains, it's time to start thinking now about how retailers in any business really might reinvent themselves tomorrow. And as I'm sure you've heard in a million emails from CEOs, we are in a period of extreme uncertainty. So while some brands are just trying to stay afloat, it might not initially seem like the time to be looking forward and into reinvention, but it's actually the best time.
Definitely. So what do you say we just get into it then?
Let's do it. So, Steph, let's just acknowledge what's happening right now. Though I don't think we've fully experienced the full fallout of this COVID-19 pandemic.
That's for sure. And it doesn't help that much of the retail industry has actually been struggling for a while. So like last year, for example, more than 9,300 stores closed their doors, which was a 59% jump from the previous year. And the retail sector lost 75,000 jobs in 2019. And I don't know what the number is right now, but I can imagine it's exponentially bigger.
Oh, yeah. I think you're going to add a few more zeros to that. Yeah. So now we're in post-corona or in Corona land, and almost all non-essential stores are, well, essentially closed. And while some retailers have just put their staff on layoff or furlough and have pledged to bring them back when this is all over, there will be companies that are forced to shut storefronts for good and probably permanently lay off employees, which, well, we don't know how long this pandemic is going to extend, so this very well could be the case.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I mean, brick and mortar clothing stores and department stores, they face some of the biggest challenges, I think, especially mall-based businesses. They're most at risk, especially the ones that had no momentum, like Victoria's Secret, for example, I think is in big trouble.
Yeah, well, Victoria's Secret and a lot of other businesses we knew were kind of in trouble coming into this, but we do know that no matter what, the impact is predictably grim. And long term, we don't know what the retail landscape is going to look like.
Yeah, and that's scary. So what can we do?
Well, we all know that the businesses needed to think about change before this, right? You talked about Victoria's Secret. It's kind of known that they've been struggling for a while, but now all these businesses are scrambling because their hands have been absolutely forced.
Yeah, and I think that businesses forget how quickly the world can change in a way that makes their messaging and positioning totally irrelevant. And COVID-19 is a very obvious example of that. And Joe explained this idea really well, too, actually. He basically says all businesses have to change or risk becoming irrelevant. There's no other option. Here's Joe.
Because today, in a world where I can get most anything I want, the proliferation of choice in a digital charged world is unbelievable. So interchangeability starts to become a problem. Well, if you sell it and someone else sells it and your next day delivery but your same day delivery, the price is roughly the same, the product is undifferentiated services, what's the tiebreaker? Mm-hmm. Well, the tiebreaker is you better mean more and be more to customers as a brand and ideally sell things they can't get from other people. But that sounds pretty straight up. But again, back to the original instigation for the book, leadership teams a lot of times just don't make those changes for one reason or another. So I started to dig into that. And what I realized was it's human nature that prevents us from, taking risk. And the heck of it today is, as business people, leaders, we've been trained to assess the risk of doing new things. Like, is that going to work? And how do we prove that out? And there isn't evidence to say that that's a sure shot. So there's this kind of discipline and rigor around the risk of change. What I argue for in the book, and everyone that will listen, is we need to get really good at assessing the risk of staying put.
Yes.
Which is today greater. The calculus has shifted. And, I can't think of a business in a category. I look at a lot of data in my work. I can't think of a business that isn't at high risk, not just moderate risk, but high risk, if they keep doing the exact same thing they're doing and the way they're doing it 3 years from now, 5 years from now. Like, the evolution is here. In fact, arguably in some categories, revolution. So now it becomes an exercise that, you don't like change? Well, you're going to like irrelevance a lot less.
Yeah.
So let's get good at it. Let's embrace change and then go from I'm pretty good at it and I think I've got my mind wrapped around it to like expert good, like pro athlete good. And that's the heart of the book.
Isn't the argument as well that the longer you wait to change, that the harder it is? And that's sort of an irony, is that if you wait super long, you actually have to do riskier moves and bigger moves. Mm-hmm. So that's difficult too, right?
Yeah, there's this paradox, which is, the longer you wait, to your point, the tougher it is. Performance starts to slide, confidence starts to decline. And when I say confidence of the leaders themselves, confidence of the entire organization, confidence of the board, if you're publicly traded, maybe shareholders, and then also wherewithal. Like, when you're not printing money, you don't have a lot of room to maneuver, and it gets worse as you let it go further. And so the paradox is, the time to actually reinvent, to begin the process of reinvention, is before you've reached your peak. Mm-hmm. And I liken it in the book to, it's like leaving the victory party early and putting on armor and going back to the battlefield and saying, hey, let's continue the party later, because what I know is this is as good as it will get. And if I don't get busy figuring out what the next act of this business is, I'm probably in real trouble. And unfortunately, my reputation is, I get a lot of companies that come well after it's too late. I think I'm almost tilting into the, Joe and his team are like turnaround folks. And what I'm arguing for people with very healthy businesses is say, you will never know when the highest moment of everything, brand equity and performance and customer love and all those things, you'll only know it when it starts a quick downward slope. And what's changed today is, faster up, disruption, like where did that company come from and how did they steal all that share, and faster down.
Right.
And it used to take like a long, long time, particularly for big companies, to die. It doesn't anymore.
Once again, that was Joe Jackman, the founder of Jackman Reinvents and author of The Reinventionist Mindset. So pre-COVID-19, most businesses were already at high risk, especially retail. You can forget 3 years from now or 5 years from now, like Joe was saying, in light of everything that's happening, that timeline is much, much narrower now. It's happening right now.
That's right. And on the other hand, though, for a handful of retailers, the coronavirus has actually been a sales boon. Places like Costco, Walmart, Target, and of course, Amazon, who offer essential products. And they've seen their customers flood into their digital stores, as well as their physical stores, 6 feet apart, as they stock up for what might be weeks or months. And these chains, as well as smaller grocery stores and pharmacies, have, at least in the short term, benefited. They've benefited from both actual need, so people who are quarantined and staying home who need food and supplies, as well as panic buying, and also just buying things that you need to stay entertained at home.
Yeah, the way people are buying has changed a lot. According to a recent report by Dalhousie University, 9% of Canadians are now shopping for food online for the first time as a result of the COVID-19 outbreak.
9% doesn't sound like that much to me.
No, but if you look back, it was only 1.5% of all food sales that were conducted online pre-crisis.
Wow.
So that's huge. That's like, what, a 500% increase. That's a lot more people. That's a huge market of people who never even considered buying grocery online previously. And we don't have a lot of really great options still in Canada either, right? Mm-hmm. And COVID-19 will likely accelerate the pace. In the US, some changes are already happening. Downloads of Instacart, Walmart's grocery app, and Shipt have increased by huge percentages compared to a year ago.
Yeah, and I'm sure they increased in just a few short months versus what they expected to increase over 12 months, for example, right?
Yeah.
And of course, who knows what those numbers will be when this is all over? We could very well see a more permanent shift in how people shop for groceries as new online shopping habits are formed.
Look at food delivery services. Mm-hmm. Restaurants have obviously closed their doors, but they're allowing for takeout and deliveries. Lobbies of buildings are full of delivery drivers or Uber Eats drivers because people are staying in isolation and ordering in. Lots of curbside pickup,
Yeah, I actually saw a video of a McDonald's here in Toronto where the entire floor space, every square inch, was all just Uber Eats bags open and ready for orders. It's insane.
Yeah, some restaurants are even doing alcohol delivery. Woohoo! Now that, and that's been allowed by the government because of circumstances right here in Ontario, which of course begs the question, when all of this is over, will consumers really be satisfied with the old way of retail? I mean, I know myself, I'm going to be like, okay, where's the wine on the menu, right?
Right, especially if this goes on for an extended period of time, and it looks like it will if it hasn't kind of already. Consumers will have new expectations of retailers, and brands across other industries will also be expected to meet these standards no matter who they are.
We actually talked to Joe about the process of reinvention and how it starts with understanding the insights that come from consumer demand and expectations. Here is Joe talking a little bit on collecting insights everywhere and then embracing the uncertainty that comes from these changes.
Companies that have been around a long time, particularly those that have been successful, tend to get super insular.
Oh yeah.
They you've experienced it, I'm sure, in your work, where you buy the hype, like you drink your own Kool-Aid around like what we do works, and there's nothing wrong with that. And understanding why things work and within the four walls of your business, all good. But today, particularly consumers, but also business buyers, they don't exist in one category. They travel across categories every day, and they bring with them expectations from one to the other. Like the minute I got onto Uber, I just went, why is banking not this easy? Why is supermarket shopping, et cetera? So seek insight everywhere is really, insights are the fundamental ingredients of strategy. Without insights, no strategy.
And it's not just insights from you just implied not from your industry. You were talking about applying the Uber UX to other experiences that were not transportation.
Yeah, like look what's happening in the world. And even just on a very human level, because sometimes this stuff can get abstract. what's happening in the world that you're excited about, that your peers or people that you see as thought leaders in your world, what are they talking about and buzzing about? What are the, I like that expression, faint signals, but also what are younger people, paying attention to or gravitating towards?
What can we learn from TikTok? Like, not
100%.
that we should be on TikTok, because that's usually the wrong reaction. Is like, well, okay, we need to be on TikTok. No.
I can't.
What can you? No, I know. I can't. They called me a boomer on TikTok. I had to leave right away.
Very offended.
I know. But it's not. And this is the reaction I hate. Is like, oh well, we need to be on these platforms. No, you don't need to be on those platforms. But you do need to learn from like why those platforms are working well.
And you hit the exact word. Like, just seek insight everywhere. Just get good at digging. Like, why is that happening? Why are people responding to it? Why is the different way that they put it together resonating? And then just open the aperture to what's going on in the world. I think that's just a fundamental starting point. Embrace uncertainty is the second one. Which is, okay, like, you really have a choice. You stay put, which feels good, and it's a comfortable thing, reliability, predictability, et cetera. But just accept that, change is coming, and it will cause you to do things differently and rethink everything at certain moments. So if that's an inevitability, why are we resisting it? Like, what is the logic if everyone is sort of driven to logical analysis? Just figure it out and realize if you're not embracing it, getting past your comfort zone, you are probably staying put too long. And so it's around also facts. Like, in business, we're trained to have hard evidence, empirical evidence that, this is a good play. This is the right strategy. Here's the reasons. We have complete evidence that that's going to be the case. Well, I would call bullshit on that, because to be a fact, it's historical. And you cannot predict the future off of facts. They're important. They can teach you lots of things. And I'm a big believer, but balance facts with feelings. And so that's all about, the way you think about the future and embracing the unknown, because it leads to the next point, which is, or next principle, create the future now. And that is, if you're not participating in the creation of the future, then it's going to be done to you.
Right.
And it's not like some far off place, like when I was a kid, to infinity and beyond. And it's all, all this exciting, maybe someday it'll all be like this. Future arrives daily.
Right.
And so, create the future now. Get it out of your head. Get it out of the lab. You don't need to place big bets. Just be thoughtful about where you're going, and then just start to learn your way into it. And you'll build confidence, you'll build case evidence, empirical evidence as you go that, yes, this is a great path, and it's going to make us money, and we're going to be successful.
Oh my God, the future arrives daily. It's as if he was predicting all of this. It's kind of eerie.
Yeah, right? Not only did the future arrive ahead of schedule, but it came in like a freaking freight train.
So what are we going to learn from all this? Like, what insights are we finding from everything that's happening? It's clear that nobody has a choice other than to embrace uncertainty.
I think this actually might be an advantage for everyone, actually. I know that we have spent many years trying to convince clients to take risks and get out ahead of being disrupted, to lead the change. Mm-hmm. But their success somehow had always bred a bit of complacency, like, oh, we're really happy, when you're the king of the castle, well, you want to hold on to being king of the castle.
Yeah, exactly. But since that castle has crumbled, this could be the best time to reassess everything. The bottom line is that no retail sector will emerge completely unscathed, and this is becoming an enormous crisis. So, as Joe said earlier, it's actually far riskier to stay put and do nothing than to completely change.
Absolutely. And that is, well, it's abundantly clear right now. There's no staying put. You'll fall with the castle. All of us need to rebuild. All of us. We see alcohol brands making hand sanitizer and fashion brands selling face masks. Bidets are selling out in North America after we poo-pooed Europeans for so many years.
So to speak.
Okay, I guess it's a funny choice of words. But there's so much that we don't understand about what's coming down the pipe here for us. I was thinking about all of the unintended consequences of what's changing right now. Or maybe we'll just go back to some sort of quote unquote normalcy. Like, will we wear face masks forever? I look at Korea and Hong Kong, where it's been pretty common to see face masks in public, even when there isn't a pandemic. Yeah, I think people got used to wearing them during outbreaks, but then kept wearing them to shelter themselves from the effects of pollution. So is this going to take hold in North America? I mean, I'm actually kind of enjoying the expressiveness of a face mask.
Wait, how is a face mask expressive, Tara? Isn't it the opposite?
Well, okay. What do you have printed on your face mask, Steph?
I have Spider-Man. He's my favorite Avenger.
Yeah. So I purchased a bunch for different moods and occasions myself. Like I would shoes or handbags, right? I have a Hello Kitty one, a Care Bears one, a Justice League one, an Avenger one, because, you have to go back and forth between the two. And I even purchased a really gorgeous designer sequin one. Like, the proceeds, of course, went to supplying PPE to healthcare workers, but it's for fancy dress-up occasions.
So stylish masks. I love it. So you're imagining a future where face masks are commonplace.
I don't know, maybe? I mean, I'm actually enjoying this a bit. I don't have to worry about fixing my makeup as much when I go out.
So the unintended consequence here may be the fall of lipstick and the rise of eyebrow grooming.
I'm really down for that.
I'm down for that too. But I don't know. Masks aren't very comfortable. I guess that's another potential consequence. Maybe they'll get more comfortable because consumers are demanding them.
I'm sure that people that have to wear masks, the frontline healthcare workers and such, would welcome this unintended consequence.
For sure. But okay, let's switch gears here a little. I'd like to bring up the elephant in the room, or shall I say the Amazon in the room.
Yeah. There are some castles, as you mentioned early, that have gotten bigger, haven't they?
Oh yeah, they sure have. But first, let's revisit what Joe said about Amazon back in January.
So the entire Amazon business model is based on the breadth of offering and the customization to people through individuals through data and ease. And at some point, while we think they're going to eat the earth and replace every retailer, we have to put it in the context. Like you mentioned, MySpace. Like, you remember when that first showed up and it was like, wow. And then Facebook was like, well, whatever that is happening out of this college campus that's surrounding her, because this is a big company. Even Yahoo. I mean, everyone's sort of like, that's it. That's a platform. And well, it got replaced. Those early, scale businesses got replaced. Let's not be surprised as Amazon resets the floor of expectation that others riff off of. But one day that will be a standard. And they will run out of room on the ease and convenience spectrum. It's just the fact that most retail was really inconvenient. Like, it was convenient back in the day when you drive to a mall and everything is collected there for you, and park your car in a million parking spots. That was ease then. Now ease has been redefined with technology. But if that's the platform one day for everybody, what's the difference that people are going to win on? It's not going to be that. And this was what Walmart did years ago in the 80s. When they scaled, everybody said, they're going to eat every retailer on the planet. Well, that hasn't happened. What they did, though, was they reset the mechanics of retail. And they took all the cost out and they drove efficiency in. Right. Well, today, a Loblaw or a Kroger, or you pick the retailer, if they're scale and they're surviving, they're as efficient. And so now we're looking for tiebreakers again. And I think in an Amazon world, I get asked this question a lot. How do you win against Amazon? You sell things that they don't or can't, and you create experiences that they are unable to.
So where are we at with this one, Steph? I mean, has Amazon run out of room on the ease and convenience spectrum? Can others compete with them?
Well, though Amazon has definitely done well during the pandemic, they are showing their real limitations too. And those limitations are driving some interesting trends towards alternatives, not competing on price per se, but on more interesting things.
Ooh, do tell, Steph.
Well, first off, Amazon is only as good as the supply chain, right? So early on in the lockdown, I admit that I was ordering quite a bit from Amazon, but so is everyone else. And at some point, the things we all needed stopped being available on Amazon. So I started looking elsewhere and found local alternatives in stores that I kind of forgot existed.
That's right. Me too. In fact, I ordered a bunch of stuff from Staples, a client of Jackman Reinvents, and Grandin Toy.
Grandin Toy? I didn't even know they were still around.
Yep, they sure are. I didn't know either. And when Amazon ran out of webcams, Grandin Toy still had a pretty decent selection.
That's awesome. So, as we're seeing, nobody, not even Amazon, was prepared for the demands of the mass migration of people working from home. I mean, I was thinking about fitness equipment myself. Amazon sold out of the stuff in a hot second. So, like you, I started poking around and ended up ordering from Canadian Tire and Sport Check. I even started finding boutique equipment shops running on Shopify that were selling out of their equipment.
Yeah, so I guess what you're saying is that agility is important. Amazon operates at enormous scale now, so they can't just switch gears quickly and manufacture a bunch of home gym equipment on demand. That demand will drive people to look elsewhere. And if you're a smaller retailer and you could be ready with product, you could really benefit from that and build a new brand out of this.
Yes. And I also saw you demonstrate the second way to win against Amazon through appealing to a distinct community. So your post on LinkedIn outlining all of the women-led businesses you were ordering from was really inspiring.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm a proud CEO activator. We've had Vicky Saunders on here as a guest in the past. She's the founder. And honestly, I wanted to support a lot of these smaller businesses who are being hit the hardest out of everyone. So instead of ordering skincare from Sephora, who are going to be perfectly fine, I ordered the stuff from Satya Organics and from my friend's local business, North Medical Spa, who opened up an online store. And instead of ordering soap from Amazon, I ordered it from CT Soap.
Yeah, and a lot of people are looking for Amazon alternatives to spend their money, especially since the pandemic has negatively affected small businesses so much. Since most of us needed stuff but wanted to do the right thing, we are spending more time seeking out local businesses who are offering curbside pickup or searching for Black-owned businesses, women-run businesses, Indigenous-owned businesses, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, this is interesting. And I'm not sure if it's something that Joe really even thought about when we were talking.
Yeah, not necessarily before we spoke, but I came across an article where Joe was talking about research he and his team did on shifting consumer attitudes. So this article was published in Retail Insider on June 4th, and Joe said this about the study. Almost 50% are saying that the changes are causing them to revisit not only their consumer behavior, purchasing decisions and such, and how they buy and who they buy from, but their very beliefs and values. What's emerging is a picture of an entire human race revisiting what's important. That will have consequences for how we buy and who we buy from.
Wow, that is so cool. So we're not the only ones trying to be more conscious about where we're buying from. I'd also imagine that the racial injustice pandemic, which has been going on a lot longer, but is now at the forefront of our discussions these days, is going to also push this conversation even further in the direction of values-driven buying.
I think so, and I have high hopes for that too. Speaking of Shopify, the other day they tweeted for Black-owned businesses to reply with the link to their store and instructed their followers to shop the thread.
Oh, yes. I was all over that. And now I'm eagerly awaiting an adorable neon tie-dye set I ordered from Lilac and Lemon, which is a Black-owned run Shopify store. That thread was a goldmine in discovering amazing new designers and retailers.
Tara, you're upping your style during this pandemic.
I sure the heck am.
Another trend that Joe and his team study has pointed out is the need for digital connections. So beyond having a store online, needing to feel connected to a brand digitally. So as Joe says in another article in Design Retail Online, he said, "It's not enough to just sell things online and run the risk of being interchangeable. Today, more than ever, customers want brands that are equipped to connect with them in a deeper and more meaningful way. Retailers need to know that, beyond whatever their functional role is with their customers, there almost always is a profound opportunity for them to play a more meaningful role in their lives, particularly in the context of the current climate."
I really do hope that's true and it sticks.
So do I, Tara.
So I guess we could say in these volatile and uncertain times. Okay, let's not say that. But it's the brands who have confidence to make bold, decisive moves that are having the most impact in delivering exceptional results. And one of the defining traits of a standout brand is the ability and bravery to disrupt itself before it falls victim to disruption by the competition.
But that doesn't mean you need to be Amazon.
Nope.
Selling stuff and a race to the bottom of price, etc., isn't what's going to win the future. So that's why this is my favorite part of the conversation we had with Joe when he talked about this.
I think the great opportunities with retail today is to think about just the fact of human interaction and things like energy and community and learning and, being stimulated by the physical as well as the digital. And that opens up a whole new aperture for the next gen of retail. And we've been doing it now. We've done it with Staples on their strategy. Joanne stores Fabric Craft in the US. I don't know if you know them, but similarly, like we developed a creator studio inside and created a whole service suite around, creating, but also sharing. And it's that dig for the insight that gives you a new way to look at your business. And to me, it's so straightforward. Like I would think, lots of conversation I have with leadership teams, they'll say, no, we know a lot about our customers. And I'll say, I will guarantee you know a lot about your customers. Yes, transactionally, how they spend their money, if you have loyalty particularly, and probably a couple layers down, not only who they are, but why they are doing what they're doing and what do they really care about. And if there's a silver bullet in all of retail, and in fact, in every business today, is stop selling people stuff and start selling them what they care about more. That is and if you don't know what that is, then go figure it out. And as soon as you do know, you're going to look at your business completely differently in a fresh new way. And I love that because suddenly you go, well, that may be different what everyone else is doing and therefore a little new and scary. But my point would be exactly. Yeah. Last time I checked, interchangeability is not a successful strategy, right?
Yes. And though Joe is talking about physical store things like in-store learning and communities, this is also made very possible digitally.
Yeah, I'd totally join an online sewing class or join a small business community hosted by Staples online.
Yep. And people are doing this right now anyway. Times of distress make people very creative. We're starting to see a massive surge in demand, not just for essential products, but for anything that revolves around being at home and keeping yourself entertained.
Yeah, there's a huge range from exercise and hobby equipment to gardening and home improvement. We've already seen how the sourdough bread starters are flying off the shelves.
Absolutely. People are definitely spending less and being more careful with their purchases, but there will always still be things people care about, a job to be done that they need to be solved, a way that they need to be entertained.
Yeah, and I have a great example. My sister, at the beginning of this pandemic, bought a puzzle, like an old-fashioned 1,000-piece puzzle online for $80, something she never, ever would have done.
Wow, $80. That's expensive, right?
Right?
That's amazing. And it's a great example. It goes back to knowing who your customer is, not just demographics. And I'm doing air quotes here because I hate that term, but why are they doing what they're doing? And what do they really care about?
Exactly. Like, she's definitely not your typical customer for buying puzzles, I promise, whatever that means. I don't want to put puzzle people in a box, as it were. But it's not about creating a demographic profile and checking that box. It's about being relevant and filling a particular need at that time. And my sister really needed a puzzle.
Yeah, I guess so. And we see this all the time with our own clients. Companies might think they know a lot about their customers, but if you scratch the surface, they actually know very little about them day to day. They might know how their customers are spending their money and some basic demographic information like how they interact with them, but what that doesn't account for is relevance, like something like your sister.
Yeah. So with that in mind, how can brands succeed in reinventing their business? It's a big question. Joe says it's actually simple.
Reinvention is not throwing everything out and starting again, which I think a lot of people think it is. It implies that I'm going to take that invention and I'm going to continually, bring it into today and make it relevant. And what I've learned in 40 plus instances is that almost never does the core idea or those strands of DNA go out of fashion or relevance. Mm-hmm. What goes out of fashion is the way that it manifests. If you, like Hertz rental car as an example, if you go back in the history of Hertz, it was these two twin strands. Let's give people really wonderful automobiles, premium automobiles, in the fastest, easiest way possible. That is an evergreen idea. And today, it means apps, and I can walk past, the lineups and so on, and just hop in the car and I don't even have to stop. But back in the day when that was first born, that was like families traveling on vacations, and the train would pull up to the destination, and there'd be somebody there with a nice open, cab car for touring, I suppose. And that was the definition of, or the application of that then. So I'm really onto this idea that, insights count. They are truly the raw materials of strategy. And one of the insights you want to find is, what was the original code of your business? Mm-hmm. And then how do you just say, I want to take that invention, I want to reinvent it, and then keep reinventing it.
Yay for insights-based strategies. Truly the raw materials of strategies. I like that.
I like that too. What I find really great about what he's saying is that you don't need to completely start over everything. Because reinvention sounds like a big, scary word. And for many brands, it is a big, scary overhaul. But I think you can start small and build from there too.
Yeah, but you don't have to start big. I mean, right now, it feels like it's scrap everything and start all over. But it could be scalable and sustainable. Like Joe said, the future arrives daily.
Yep. You don't have to place big bets, just smart ones. And look, the uncomfortable fact is that not all retailers are going to be able to weather this storm. And it's really unclear which of the thousands of shops will be able to even reopen.
Yeah, the retailers who are able to invest smartly and create the initiatives to fully support and take advantage of those behavioral changes that have happened because of the pandemic, that will be what separates those that are able to weather the storm from those that aren't.
Yeah, and I keep saying that the silver lining, if there is such a thing to a crisis like this, is that we may see a reinvention of brands on the other side, though.
Yeah, and I mean, I, for one, really welcome it. And because both consumers and brands alike will really benefit from this. And yes, there are tough times ahead, but there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. We just can't see it yet. So there you have it.
There you have it. We'd love to send an enormous thank you to Joe Jackman for joining us. His latest book, called The Reinventionist Mindset, is available where else? On Amazon. And we'll put the link for that in the show notes.
Let's also put the link on like some other smaller, maybe like Chapters Indigo or whatever.
Yeah, let's do that too. You can find the show notes wherever you're listening to this podcast, as well on our website, trulyinc.com. And thank you also to our content manager / guest wrangler, Amos Amal, our audio engineer and editor, Joe Pacheco, and our incredible staff at Truly Inc. who help make these stories come alive. The show is written and hosted by Tara Hunt and me, Stephanie Forster.
If you enjoyed this episode, there are many more to come. Please also let us know what you think of our new and improved format. Personally, we love that we can break down what our guests say into super fine details and discuss it further, giving you guys more value. Subscribe to us on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. Send us your feedback, ideas, suggestions, and yes, even your complaints on Twitter. The podcast is found at Anatomy of a Strat. I'm found at Miss Rogue. That's MISSROGUE.
Yeah, and I'm found at Stefani F. That's STEFANIF. And also rate and review us on Apple Podcasts.
And share it with your friends, colleagues, boss, family, anyone who you think would benefit from listening. I mean, what else are they doing right now?
That's right. They got time. See you soon.
Stay safe. Bye.